Hey, I'm Nancy Alexander with Ladybug Wreaths. Welcome to Wreath Making with Nancy. I am so glad to have you back with me again today, and we're going to be making one of my favorite wreaths, and it's for Valentine's Day. A lot of people think they have to start with a heart-shaped wreath to make a heart-shaped wreath. A heart-shaped form to make a heart-shaped wreath, but you really don't. So I'm going to show you how. I have one of our wild birch wreaths right here on my easel, and this is a 14-inch. When we measure them, we measure diagonally, that's 14 inches. But when we're through, this is going to be a much larger wreath, and it's going to be in the shape of a heart. So the first thing I'm going to do is, if I can find my honeysuckle, we're going to put some of our honeysuckle in it. We put a lot of honeysuckle in our we do it for all seasons except maybe Christmas, because it doesn't really show if you put it in a green Christmas wreath. I'm going to just get the end of it and I'm going to tuck it in my wreath. If it goes all the way through, it's okay. And then I'm just going to make a little loop that kind of sticks out in the front. So I'm going to cut this off right here. I don't know if you can see my counter or not, but I've got all kind of pretty flowers lined up there that we can choose from today to make our Valentine wreath. Okay, now I've stuck that in there, and it's in there pretty tightly, but I've got my glue gun heated up, and I'm just going to shoot some glue in right on top of it. This is a new glue gun, and it's eating my glue. Let me put another one in there. Kim, I'm gonna need your glue gun. And y'all, this was a brand new one right out of the package, but we have one more that's still hot, so that's good. Thank you very much. That's Kim. She's my friend. She's my employee. Kim has worked for me off and on for a lot of years, and we have fun together. Okay, let's start over with that. Now I've got some glue coming out. I'm going to shoot it right on top of the joint where that honeysuckle vine slid in. And anytime we do that, we have green sheet moss. I'm just going to tuck a little piece right there. It actually does two things. It helps to hold that in tighter, it helps the glue to stick better, and it covers up your work. If you tie something in or use a pipe cleaner or just a glob of glue, you don't want that showing when you're through with your wreath. So I'm going to put a little bit on this other side also. I've already got my little piece of moss. I'm going to stick it right here. And I'm going to add one more little loop. Now this is a little tiny one, but it's really cute because it's all curled up. I like that. And it doesn't have to go in the perfect spot, just wherever you stick it in and it stays is where I usually leave it. I'm just going to kind of wrap it around the edge of this one a little bit and stick it in that same spot. And it's curling out a little bit beyond the first one, and that's okay if it does, because we like our wreaths kind of wild and woodsy, and we like them sticking out some. Get me a couple of more little pieces of moss. Stick some down in there. When you do this, this glue is very hot. I know they make glue that they say is warm glue, and they say it sticks as well as the hot glue, but I don't like it. I haven't found that it's stuck as well when I've used it. Now, we've got our honeysuckle, we've got our wreath. I want to start adding some greens that are going to make this come down in a point like a heart. I'm going to put some greens up this way that'll make it kind of curl out and kind of have a dip in the middle. Now, one of my favorite ones that I like to use at the bottom, this was on a bush, and this is all I have left right now, but it makes a really pretty point to come down in the point of your heart-shaped wreath. So I'm going to cut some of these off really quickly. Now, when you start making wreaths, if this is your first time, wire cutters are very, very, very important. They will kill your hands if you don't have some good ones that cut well. My favorite kind is made by Klein, and I'm going to hold them up so you can see they actually are angled a little bit, the tip of it. And I find these in the electrical departments at places like Lowe's or Home Depot, any home improvement store. They don't have them in the other departments, which is strange. Now, while we were talking, I'm going to show you in a minute how to do that. I got about 3 of these, and I put a floral pick on them. And we're going to wrap it in floral tape. And floral tape is stretchy. When you pull it, it makes it stick to itself. So if you can see right here, I'm just twisting and pulling down the tape down on my stem, and then I tear it off. And I'll show you that again as we keep going so you will know exactly what we're doing. Now, I just ran a bead of glue around the bottom of my pick, and I know that looks really funny just sticking right out there for now, but that's the way we want it to look. I'm going to gather several more of these. I'll go a little slower with the pick this time so you can see what I'm doing. This is a 4-inch pick, floral pick, and it's got wire on one end. I lay it beside the stems about 3/4 of an inch up, and I wrap it very tightly, and then I twist it between my fingers while I'm pulling the wire at the same time. And then I get some of my floral tape, start at the top, pull it tightly where it wraps onto itself, and then go straight on down your stem with it, twisting it in your fingers. So that if someone looks at this in your wreath, it's just going to look much better than if they saw the wires. Now I'm going to put a bead of glue down this pick. I'm going to do it down both sides. And I'm going to stick it. Even if I stick it in at an angle, that's okay, because this is kind of flimsy. I can bend it back open. Okay. Now that's going to be part of the point of my heart. I'm going to get some ivy now. This is just a bush of ivy, comes together on a stem. Most of the time I find it easier just to go ahead and cut a bunch of pieces off at one time, so I don't have to keep picking it up and cutting each piece one at a time. So I'm just going to cut it all off. Now, I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, but yesterday we filmed one of our free videos, and it's called Wreath Tips with Nancy. I've started doing some free ones. It's I'll have a link to it on my website, and which is ladybugwreaths.com. Now, I am shaping this already before I put it in there, and I'm going to cut the end of the leaves off. And I don't need to put a pick on there because I've got a pretty good stem. I'm going to let this be one side of the heart. So I'm going to stick it into my wreath, and I'm going to let it come up. Well, I lost some more leaves, but that's okay. I'm going to let it come up just a little bit, and I'm going to shoot some glue right in there, and I'm going to go ahead with the other one that matches it. It's got a little piece that comes off the side, and we'll see if I can get it in there before my glue dries. Now, I'm going to tuck one of these back up underneath some of my twigs on my birch wreath a little bit. Now, I know you're probably thinking, are you sure that's going to look like a heart? But yeah, it really is when we're through. You'll be surprised. And as we're working, everything I do, I'm going to keep going like this, just like the heart shape. And I've got lots of greens here. I'm going to add a couple more pieces of ivy, and then we're going to switch to another type of green. Sometimes I make my bow and put it on before I do this. But since we're trying to make a specific shape with the greenery, I wanted to get the greenery in there first. And I'm going down the stem with my glue gun. I'm just going to bring some greens on down. And notice this, it's all going to be pointing down the wreath as I come out the sides of it. And I'm bending it in my hands some so I kind of get it the shape that I want before I stick it in. That's important. It just makes it easier. And these spots where I'm sticking this, it's going in there so tightly. Well, going in there so tightly that you really can't even see where I'm sticking it in. So that's why I'm not taking the time right now to put any more moss just yet. I'll go back in a little bit and add a little bit more moss. And then I'm going to have another one that comes down this way. I want it to come down a little bit further, so I'm going to get out another pick. I'll hold it up against the stem. You'll have to get used to doing this at first. When you put a pick on, you'll do like I did, and it'll probably just fall back off. It takes a while to hold pressure on your wire while you're pulling it and twisting it. But when you do it the right way, you can really pull and jerk, and it will not come off. And I'm going to put my tape on it again. And my glue. Now you can buy heart-shaped wreaths. Actually, the girl who makes my birch wreaths also makes some heart-shaped ones. Sometimes I buy some and sometimes I don't, because we can make them look so pretty like this And it seems to me like most of the time when you're buying a heart-shaped wreath, it's not as wide in the middle. It's kind of pushed in really tight, so you can't get your big flowers in there. And I'm wanting to put this sign in my wreath today. It says Happy Valentine's Day. So by the time I add some big flowers and my sign and a bow, starting with a larger wreath like this just gives you more room to work with in the center of your wreath. Now this is a shorter piece of ivy, so I'm shorter than I used on the other side. So I'm probably going to have to grab one more, put a pick on it. And stick it in there. And you will get to where you can slap these picks on really quickly without even looking at what you're doing. Sometimes I stand here and look out the window at the birds. And speaking of that, did you see a lot of redbirds out there today? Steve filled up our feeders. We've got a lot of feeders in our yard, y'all, and we've got a garden out there and a pergola, and we normally have lots of redbirds. Well, I had noticed I hadn't seen as many, but the ones that I was seeing were being really, really loud. And I realized they didn't have any food. Okay. So we've got that. We're not going to use this other piece of honeysuckle. I love this fern right here. This is really pretty. It's a lighter color. When you're using greens, I'm going to move this over so you can see. When you're using greens in your wreath, don't ever try to match the greens. Don't try to use the same color throughout. Because if you look outside in your yard, or if I look outside in my yard, there are so many different shades of greens, and we want our wreaths to look natural. We want them to look like it just grew outside like that and has all kind of natural stuff growing on it. Now I'm going to add, I love this fern. I don't remember where I got it, but I really love it. I'm going to add a couple of more loops at the top with it. And I curled it first before I put it in, so it could keep making the point, the top point of my heart. I'm still getting emails from y'all, and I appreciate every single one. I had some more when I woke up this morning. Well, this is not going in. And actually, some days I get several hundred emails. Well, shoot. You'll run into this problem too. If you're working from a particular point in a wreath, trying to get a lot into the same spot, it'll start getting full and you won't be able to get it all in that same spot. You'll have to just move over a little bit. But getting back to the emails, so many of you are sending me pictures of your wreaths. One lady sent me 2 pictures of her wreath with her cell phone this morning. And I could see the wreath. It was beautiful. She did a really, really good job. And I want you to do that. I would love, really love to see the wreaths that you're making after you've watched these videos. And we're going to start doing a section in my newsletter, which comes out weekly, where we'll highlight some of our customers and their wreaths and what they've accomplished. And I actually spent about gosh, at least 3 hours the other day going through those emails and picking out some to put in the newsletter for this week and picking out some pictures. I went through and copied them and put them in a Word document, and I didn't believe it when I was through, but I had 24 pages, and it wasn't large text, it was smaller, but it's wonderful. It's just wonderful to know that I have made a difference in your life, and that you're learning to do something that you really love, just like I love, and like Kim loves. Once you get started doing this, it's addictive. If you have a talent for this, and most of you that are watching these videos do, you have a love of it already, and you'll find that once you get started, you can't stop. I can stand here and work, and I have no clue of what time it is or how much time has gone by. And I'll look at the clock and I'll think, oh my gosh, I've been here for 3 hours and I haven't moved, or 4 hours. And I know Kim does that too. The time just goes by so fast when you're doing something you love doing, when you're creating something with your hands, something that's very special. And you can't wait to get through so you can go and hang it on a door somewhere or hang it on your wall so you can look at it. Now, is that looking more like a heart? I'm going to turn it around for you just a second and let you see it a little bit better. Maybe how's that? Is that better, Kim? Okay. It's hard to have it where y'all can see it good and where I can work with it good too. But I want you to see how you really can make a heart-shaped wreath out of a round one. Now I'm going to put just a little bit more right down in here. I guess you can tell I like this fern because I'm using a lot of it. And Kim's probably thinking, God, that's all we've got left, and she's using it up. She just stuck her tongue out at me. Sorry, Kim. You have to find something else to use. When you work with florals and flowers, you'll find something that you just really like to use, that you like to work with. And if you have someone else that you're working with too, sometimes you'll just say, oh, there's only just a little bit of this left. I'll just hide it in my little box up underneath my counter. We call it our scrap box. I can't get away with a scrap box anymore. Kim doesn't like scrap boxes, and she says they take too long to use all those little pieces. So she says, you go in the house and I'll take care of this, and I know what that means. It means I won't ever see it again. Okay, we're getting to the point now where I'm going to put a bow in it. Now I'm adding some grasses right here in this little point, and I love these grasses. They're a lighter green, kind of a limey green. And I'll have a little bit that actually comes out from right there. I'm not going to put it in there just yet. And I'll have some in the top. But it is time to stop and make our bow. This is one of my favorite ribbons. It comes in all different colors. I bet they have this in probably, gosh, 30 different designs and patterns, colors. You can tell this starts at green, goes to a kind of a creamy yellow, and then to a kind of a pinkish burgundy. And if you have purchased my secret vendor list, I tell you where I order my ribbons. I tell you where I order a lot of my supplies. Now, if you watched my last video, we were out of green pipe cleaners, and I'm sorry to say that we still are, and I'm going to tie my bow with a red pipe cleaner, but when I'm through, it's not going to show. You're not going to know it. I'm going to, now I have several bow making videos on YouTube that you can look at that are free. I'm going to make this bow. I'm going to explain it as I go, but I'm not going to go very slow because you can look at the other videos and see how to do it. I start with my first streamer, which is almost a yard long. I pinch it together. I pull it away from me and back up underneath and make my first loop, and I scrunch it together, hold it with my fingers, and then I twist it, and I raise my finger to hold that, bring it toward me and back up underneath. And if you remember from my other videos, first we do a bow tie, and that's a bow tie. And I'm always working away from myself when I'm making these. Now I'm twisting it, and the next layer is going to be in the shape of an X. And I've twisted that and scrunched it together. I'm going to twist it again, and it's going exactly opposite from that loop. Now this is, the first layer is the bow tie, the second layer is the X, and that layer is about 1.5 inches longer. All 4 loops are about 1.5 inches longer than the bow tie. And this is the third loop in my bow tie. And the fourth loop in my bow tie. Now I'm going to make a third layer on this one. Sometimes you just want to stop with that. Depends on what size wreath you're making. I'm going to make my third layer, which is another bow tie. So it'll come straight up the center. It'll be about 1.5 inches longer than the loops of the X. Now I'm pinching it and twisting it each time and holding it with my finger. And there's the second loop of the bow tie. And every time I end my bow, I twist it again. I bring one loop up in the very top, and I pinch it together, and I let it come down on the left side. So that will be the left side of my bow. And if you'll notice, when I'm making my bows, I shape them as I go. Now I've threaded the pipe cleaner through it, and one of the keys of making a really good bow is twist. If you can see my fingers, I am twisting it very, very tightly. Actually, during Christmas, when I used to make so many bows, I would twist it right there in that joint in my finger, and I would split it open, so I would have to tape up my fingers to make my bows. But making them this way, they are shaped really pretty when you're through. You can straighten them just a little bit the way I am, but it doesn't take a lot. I'm just kind of running my fingers through the inside of each loop. And please always use wired ribbon. Don't even try it with ribbon that's not wired. And I'm going to leave one of these streamers just a little bit longer. Now, when I'm making a heart-shaped Valentine wreath, I could put the bow right here at the bottom or on the side, or you can even put it at the top. But today I'm going to put it right here on the left side. And I'm going to thread it through. Now I know this red pipe cleaner is showing, and when I'm through, I will cover that with some of my green sheet moss and some glue, and you won't see it. Now I'm twisting this, and I'm going to cut off the extra. And I've got some stems that are poking through the back. And after I'm totally finished with my wreath, I turn it around and I trim off everything on the back that's sticking out, because sometimes you may want to hang it on a glass door. And let's see. Okay, I'm going to do something right here I want to point out to you. I'm going to bring this loop up under my honeysuckle vine. Sometimes you'll just need to kind of tuck them around to make sure they stay where you want them to stay. And then when we make our bows, we do something a little different with those. We stick some of our greens inside the bows, and that helps them hold their shape and all the loops stay where they should stay. Okay, now I'm going to pinch this one together and tuck it right in between one of these stems right here. And I'm going to shoot a little bit of glue right there where I tucked it. And I'm going to put a little bit more sheet moss there, just a little pinch. And that holds that loop in place very securely. And I'm going to do, well, I'm going to do something a little different right here. I've got a stem that's sticking out from my wreath, from my birch wreath. I'm going to wrap, I left some extra ribbon right here. So I'm going to wrap it around that stem, and I'm going to tie it. Well, if I can get it in there, okay. I think it looks pretty with your streamers if you let them have a little bit of, you don't want to pull them down really, really tight. You want them to have a little bit of extra ribbon sticking out, so it just gives it an extra little loop. Okay, and that's what I did with this one. So tying it to that stem, left an extra little loop sticking out, and actually I can slide it up in the stem a little bit more and pull it a little bit tighter, because if I'm not careful, if I leave it sticking out too far, I'm going to lose the shape of my heart. That sounded funny, didn't it? Now also I'm going to use a little bit more of this one and tuck it back up in the same spot, but this time it's going to be hard to get it in there. So I'm going to fold this ribbon in half, and I'm going to put one of my green floral picks on it. I'm going to tie it, twist the wire around my ribbon, tie it to the pick, and use my, I've got some green tape here too, y'all. In wreaths, green or brown, either one shows up fine. I mean, it's hidden fine. Now in a Christmas wreath, I usually try to stick with green. Okay, now, okay, I've got that where I want to tuck that pick up in there. So before I tuck it in there, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the end of my pick. And you can do this throughout your wreath. You can have just a long piece of ribbon. You can leave a couple of really long streamers. And, okay, And you can loop it and curl it. You can tie it to part of your wreath. You can put it on a pick. And see, that looks really pretty, and that's bringing the ribbon down, kind of like the shape of the heart. Now we have no, we don't. I thought we had a bird nest, but I decided I was going to make one. I'm going to show you first how this sheet moss looks. This is what I'm reaching down in a box and pulling pieces out. It comes in big sheets, and if you can get it from a really good place that harvests it cleanly, you don't have a lot of dirt on the back of it. But it still is all going to have dirt no matter what you do, but you don't want any extra. I'm going to kind of roll it up underneath, and I'm going to put some glue under there, and now this is where I really could get burned. And right in there, I'm going to tuck that, and there's some glue showing on the outside of that, so I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to put another piece underneath from the bottom that will catch that glue. Now that wrapped around this piece of honeysuckle vine. And I've got a sweet little bird. I think I'm going to use the green one. Now with birds, to anchor him in, we could put some glue up underneath and we could sit him up in there, but I want to make sure he stays in there really good and tight. So I'm going to use the sharp point of the pick. I'm going to stick it in the bird, and it's just styrofoam, it's real soft. I'm going to stick a little bit of glue in that hole, and I'm going to stick my pick back in it. And then we've got the end sticking out with the wire, so I'm going to cut that off in a point. And before I stick my bird in, I'm going to put some more glue around the bottom, and I'm going to put it down that pick. And sometimes, there he goes. He just slid right in to a cute little spot. Okay. Next, we're going to be adding some more greenery and some really pretty flowers. Hi, I'm Nancy Alexander again, back with you from Ladybug Wreaths. This is the Valentine wreath that we just made today. We just filmed a video of me making this beautiful wreath. It's a little unusual because we used a round wreath and we made it to be shaped like a heart. In this video, I'll show you every detail, every step, so that you can go and buy your materials, and we even talk about the materials that you should buy, so that you can make your own Valentine wreath, and I guarantee you, your friends and your neighbors are going to want one too, as soon as they see yours. It's always fun having you visit with me, and until I see you again next time when we're making some other beautiful creation, I'll talk to you later. Bye.